Warning, this episode contains spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, in theaters now. Hello, and welcome to Podcast. I'm podcast host.
And I'm podcast.
Oh, you're What? I thought you were other podcast host.
Oh, and I'm other podcast host.
Yeah, and this is Podcast. And here we're... Here, we're something of a scientist ourselves.
Shut up. No, that's not.
Today's a very special episode of F&S because for the first time in history, Jer and I are in the same room together. And he has just discovered the EVCO business cards.
There's
that I created.
EVCO business cards, and he actually paid money for multiple.
No, by the way, though, they came in minimum 100 pack.
Oh my God.
But one of these is for you. I've given one to all the boys, so take it. Keep it in your wallet. Don't lose it.
It's like a Batman call.
Yeah, it is.
I could just show this into like a light, and on the back of it, it'll just show your face.
Yeah, totally.
Spreading throughout the world, or it's like a painting.
Uh-huh. Anyway, today's a short but fun episode. We are going to be talking about the newest and greatest Marvel movie that's out right now, Spider-Man No Way Home. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen it. I've seen it 3 times. Jer saw it once for the first time just today. So I kind of like that because it's coming from a bit of 2 different perspectives, right? You've only seen it once, whereas I've seen it a few times. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be like traditionally reviewing the movie. Jer's just kind of indulging me because I want to geek out about Marvel stuff for a few minutes.
Acceptable.
And we'll just talk a little bit about our favorite and least favorite aspects of the movie. I do want to start, because I actually don't know this about you. Mm-hmm. I do want to start with, historically in your own life as a child growing up, what was Spider-Man to you? Was he your favorite superhero? Did you have a lot of involvement with the previous movies?
I did. I believe I was pretty into Spider-Man when I was younger. I'm not quite positive. All I remember is that I had Spider-Man blankets and Spider-Man everything.
Fair enough.
And I liked Spider-Man costumes, and Tobey Maguire was pretty cool. I remember a lot.
You were a Tobey fan?
I think I was. I thought it was funny that he hated the paparazzi. Even at the ripe old age of 7, that was cool to me.
Uh-huh.
And so I was very much in, not cahoots. What am I thinking? Cahoots.
You were in cahoots with Tobey?
I wish. I was very fascinated with Spider-Man when I was younger. So it was a big part of my life. I watched a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man when I was younger. I really loved that show, and then I was ridiculed for liking Andrew Garfield at all.
Really?
As a Spider-Man. People really didn't like me for that one.
Yeah.
I never saw the second one, so I guess I never really got to experience the full sadness that was.
So you didn't know about Gwen Stacy falling and dying?
I knew about her dying. I got spoiled the entire movie, hence why I didn't watch it.
Oh, okay.
There was reasons for that, but I basically adored Spider-Man in every facet. I really liked both actors, and then out of nowhere came Boy Wonder Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, this ballin'. And I was like, that's pretty sick. And I liked him a lot, and I started liking him more as an actor rather than a Spider-Man. I think he's a really good Spider-Man. I think he's one of the best ones, if not the best by far.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that I just said an entire series of words that all amounts to, I like Spider-Man when I was a kid.
Yeah, okay. Well, so we come from a little bit of a different place, though, then, because even as a kid, I really wasn't the hugest Tobey fan.
Really?
I just did not find him to be a good actor, and I'm not a fan. And actually, I take that back. There's a movie called Brothers that he did with Natalie Portman and Jake Gyllenhaal, and he does act really well in that. I think the problem is the director, Sam Raimi, who people like, but he just directed those movies in such a cheesy way that I couldn't
get time.
Yeah, I couldn't get behind it, and I couldn't get behind Tobey's cheesy performance. So I really liked Andrew Garfield too. I didn't get ridiculed for liking Andrew Garfield. In fact, I feel like a lot of people agreed with me. I didn't necessarily have a lot of different outlets to talk about it, but I remember people being okay with Andrew Garfield, at least for the first movie.
One, yeah.
But I really loved Spectacular Spider-Man, kind of like Ultimate Spider-Man. It's just another cartoon. But I wasn't the hugest Tobey fan. I did like his first movie, but memes aside, obviously there's fantastic memes in that trilogy, but memes aside, I don't really dig 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the same way with Andrew Garfield's. I like the first one, and I don't like the second one. So Tom Holland was the first one where I liked all his movies at least a little.
Yeah.
I don't think Homecoming and Far From Home are... We talked about a little bit about this on the way home. The director for that is not... He doesn't really have his own artistic voice. You know? So Sam Raimi and... Who directed Andrew's? Mark Webb is his name. They both had a style to them that John Watts just doesn't really have. That changes a little bit with No Way Home. They have better action sequences, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was a big Spider-Man fan as well. I definitely liked him better than Batman or Superman or any of the others. So, that said, I went into this movie pretty much knowing everything that was going to happen. And I wanted to ask you, when Doc Ock comes out for the first time, you reacted to that as if you had no idea he was going to show up.
Well,
did you not see the trailers for this movie?
I
Did you
knew
not
Doc
know?
Ock was going to come out. I was aware that he was going to be in the movie.
Okay.
My standpoint was that this is going to be at the end of the movie, you know.
Really?
I thought, I was very much not aware of the fact that Peter wasn't getting thrown through the multiverse himself.
Oh.
I thought that everyone had forgotten, from what I had seen from the trailers, I thought everyone had forgotten Peter, and he had to somehow fix it by going through the entire thing, and everyone else had gotten...
You thought he was going to be jumping to other universes as opposed to them coming to him.
Exactly. And so I was very confused. So when Doc Ock showed up out of nowhere, I was like... no!
Yeah.
That's not what I thought was going to happen. It blew my mind out of the water.
See, that explains it, because I was like, how brilliant of an experience would it be if you had no freaking idea that any of this was going to happen? I knew everything that was going to happen. I knew about internet spoilers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I wanted to know why you had reacted like that.
Yeah, sadly, I did know about the 3 as well.
About the Andrew and Toby coming in?
Yes, I did know about that because I had anticipated it, and then somebody spoiled it for me.
Yeah.
No mentions of who it was, but it did break my heart. To know that happened, I was like, I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't want it was going to happen. You know?
Well, okay, I will be honest. This is the one time that I was like, yes, I like surprises, but on the off chance that this was the biggest gaslight of all time, I would have been so disappointed that Andrew Toby didn't show up, and having that surprise would have ruined the whole movie.
Yeah.
So if they weren't going to show up, I did want to know in advance.
Yeah.
And so that's actually, I sought out the spoiler. I didn't want to, like, know play-by-play what was going to happen, but I needed to know, are they in it in some capacity?
Yeah.
But obviously, not only are they in it, but, like, they're in it.
They're prevalent
like,
in the
they're in
movie.
the whole freaking third act, and it still feels like a fever dream to me. I never in my life thought I'd see all 3 Spider-Man swinging together in one scene.
Yeah.
And they have really good chemistry.
Yep.
They bounce off each other.
They did
really well.
really, really well. It did a really good job of what the animated Spider-Mans have done, which they have done things in which multiple Peter Parkers have gotten together before. Another good example is Sony's Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really, really great example of, like...
Do you think that was an experiment by them to see, like, will people like this? And if they do, that's our guarantee that we should put Andrew and Toby in the MCU?
I think kind of, but also you got to remember that this movie is technically owned by Sony first and foremost.
Right, it is.
And so because of that, due to that nature, they had already done it once, and those other 2 movies, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they were originally a part of Sony's movies in the first place.
Right.
Those were already Sony's in the first place. And both of them had mentioned that they liked being Spider-Man and that they didn't have any regrets about it.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, I would love to do another one. It just things happen. You know, we can't do them anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, Marvel's like, we have a budget.
Right.
And we have actors, and we think that this would be a good idea. If Marvel gives the okay, Sony was already on board with it in the first place. So I definitely think Spider-Verse was a great start to the multiverse, section of the show, of the movies. And I think, it was more so an experiment. It was wonderfully done. It didn't end up like an experiment. It ended up like its own standalone, one of the most incredible animated movies just of the century.
Yeah.
Of this decade, excuse me. Just hands down. I mean, I don't think it's Iron Giant, but I'd say it's pretty darn close to like some more things. Like for me, Treasure Planet and Atlantis, in that era of more caricature
Caricature. Yeah.
Caricature in the movies rather than the Disney style of animation, which I feel genuinely detracts from personality. Because a lot of personality, I think that things like Toy Story and that stuff, 3D animation is cool. It's wonderful, and it's come out in an amazingly long way.
Yeah.
But I feel like people put their personality into the things that they draw. Like, you can tell the little bits and nuances when they draw something. You don't really see the little bits and nuances in an animated movie because you're so fixated with the big movements and the massive movements and everything is so extravagant, right?
Yeah.
Little things are hard to see. With something like Into the Spider-Verse, there's extravagant things, but it was the hand-drawn style of it and the beauty of that hand-drawn nature.
Yeah.
Even though I think it might have been 3D animated, they still had that style.
But it was like almost 3D animation of people's drawings.
Exactly. Somebody took the time and the work and the personality to throw into Miles and to Peter and all those other Spider-Mans. And one thing that I'm kind of like slightly confused about, and not confused in what actually has added up more so over time, and you realize is there's a reason why there was only 3 Spider-Mans. It says, show me Peter Parker. Right?
Yeah.
Didn't say show me Miles Morales.
Well, yeah,
Didn't say
if
show
he
me
had
Gwen
said
Stacy.
if he had said showed me Spider-Man and the freaking John Hamm's Spider Pig
Yeah,
walked
dude.
into the
But think
not
about,
John Hamm. What is his name? John Mulaney is what who I
you got to
meant.
think about this too, which is really, what if just John Mulaney showed up? Just John Mulaney.
Just actual John Mulaney.
He's like, what is
want that.
going on here?
I want John Mulaney in the next Spider-Man. Can we get that, please?
Wasn't he the only one to break the fourth wall in
I think he might have.
Into the Spider-Verse? But one of my big things about it that I noticed is like Venom was there, right? And he wasn't in the entire movie. So what other guys came through the portal
For just a few minutes.
a few minutes to days? You know,
well, they all would have been there for a few days, I guess.
Like a couple of weeks. Like, what could have happened in the meantime, right?
And maybe we'll see fallout of
That
that
could be
in
very
future
interesting.
movies.
Yeah, that could be very, very interesting.
Before I do want to talk about future movie stuff. Before we get to that, the one thing I want to discuss about the movie itself is the end.
Oh my gosh.
Because, it's a gut punch.
So
because everybody forgets Peter. And this is I want to explain. I was listening to a different podcast where they did a full-blown review of this movie after the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
They pointed out something to me that I completely forgot about, and you mentioned it earlier. I just don't think you mentioned it in this context, and so I didn't say anything. Sony and Marvel had a big fight in 2019, really right around the time Far From Home came out.
Yeah.
And it was well known that at the time they had a contract for Spider-Man to be in 5 Marvel movies.
Yes.
That was Civil War, Homecoming, Far From Home, Infinity War, Endgame. That was it. So they were at the end of that contract, and people were worried that Spider-Man was going to leave the MCU and go back to Sony.
Yeah.
So they made a contract just to do one more movie, No Way Home. Now you think about how this movie, think about what it took away from Peter. It took away Aunt May. It took away MJ, Ned, Happy, Doctor Strange, because everybody who remembers him and knows who he is was either killed or they forgot him.
Yeah.
And they put him in a position where his character, having been forgotten by everybody in the MCU, could go back to Sony without it not making sense.
Yeah.
And without it not referencing the Avengers stuff anymore.
That's true.
So I know that now. I had forgotten about it the first time I saw it. The first time I saw this movie, I was like, man, this is a gut punch, but like it's all going to be okay. And I thought it was a good storytelling thing, but I kind of see through it now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's still a very well done ending. But
everyone was so excited for Spider-Man to be there forever, you know?
yeah, but I'm just worried how much of that might still stick.
Yeah.
They've confirmed that Spider-Man is going to do a whole other trilogy in the MCU. But I don't want them to redo the Tobey movies, basically.
Yeah.
They got him in his own apartment now. They have him without any previous connection to other MCU characters. And I'm just like, I mean, part of this is obviously because of my well-known bias against Zendaya. But like, you can't get rid of Ned and MJ, right? Like, I don't want them to bring in a new love interest after having all this build up
instead of
over 3
MJ,
movies.
you think it might be Gwen?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Gwen, or they haven't ever done Black Cat before, and he has kind of a connection with her.
Kind of.
It's pretty.
He thought he had a kid with her, so there's that.
Well, sure, in the comics.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, A, you're not going to get a more popular actress than Zendaya right now because of her Euphoria show. She's just won an Emmy, and everyone our age has grown up with her on the Disney Channel and loves her. You got Ned, who's got magic powers. I want him to be the new Sorcerer Supreme in like 20 years.
That's really funny.
And then also, again, I just like Zendaya because she's pretty.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, what are the chances, do you think, that they're not actually going to bring them back?
I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
Because here's one thing. Yes, now we know this. I mentioned it to Evan earlier, but there's some personal things. And yes, Tom and Zendaya are very private people. And they also, I hate the parasocial relationship dynamic that's in the world right now.
Yes.
I think people should have their own privacy. I'm using you for entertainment. I pay to watch you on a screen act well. I was an actor in some regard. I know what it's
he was
like.
In the painting, okay? I mean,
yeah.
Best Evco video.
You don't have to tell them it wasn't.
It was from an artistic standpoint. Come on.
No, Coke Addict was the best.
Oh, you're right. I forget about Coke Addict.
Coke Addict was the best by far from an artistic standpoint.
Yeah.
From an actually odd, like more melancholy, benign scenario, I think the painting was incredible.
Yeah.
But from like pure, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Coke Addict is insane.
Fair enough. I'll take the credit for that.
If Coke Addict had dun 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 at the very end, like I would have lost.
It would have hit.
Okay, back to the
back to
the stuff. They're very private people, but they themselves, and I know that Tom's expressed this feeling, and he did like 3 movies in like 1 year or 2 years in terms of like the amount.
Because Infinity War and Endgame were back to back.
Infinity War, he did Endgame. He was working on that other one where he was he was in Britain, and he was doing that movie. I don't remember which one it was. Was it Peaky Blinders? No.
Cherry?
It might have been Cherry.
He did a movie called Cherry.
But he did that movie, and then he filmed. He was filming the Spider-Man movies at the same time, and then immediately after that, he started filming. He was doing. I think he was doing
that Uncharted movie.
He was doing No Way Home, I think, and Uncharted at the same time. Yeah. And so he has been in a ton of movies, and I think he was just like, I'm gonna get out of my system right now. I know that at the moment, I can't speak for his head or his heart, but from what he's tweeted occasionally, he said that he has made sentiments, and if this is completely false, I'm sorry. Go fact check me, but he's made sentiments that he wants to settle down and start a family, possibly, and relax. And I think that him and Zendaya are going to start moving away from the limelight. Genuinely, they've made
really because she's in the middle of her show right now.
Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Maybe she's going to focus on her thing. Maybe he's going to just be supportive in that nature.
I think. They're so young, and I understand that they want to settle down and have a different existence, and I think that they'll do that to a certain extent. Yeah. But like, I don't see them waiting beyond another 3 years max to do another Spider-Man movie. Marvel's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, probably.
So,
but
whatever it takes to pay them to come back to do the next one and get up off their asses, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. But either way, I think that there will be a break from movies, at least, with I think Holland. I think he's going to take a relaxing, because he's worked his ass off. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
He's worked his butt off for the past little while to kind of get that feel. And so because of that, I think that it's a well-deserved break in some regard. But again, I don't even know the guy. I just think that he's a decent actor and he gives me entertainment and I pay him for it. So, but one thing I will say, as from one standpoint, and I keep saying as an actor, like I was in high school theater, right? That doesn't mean jack.
It's still more than me.
Yeah, it was cool and all, and I learned a lot from it. But from what I do know, and I did learn quite a bit about appreciating other people's acting, I've been waiting. Every Spider-Man so far has gone through some form of tragedy in which people forget that Spider-Man is a terrifying entity. He is one of, if not the strongest person in the MCU, I think, physically.
At his peak. I don't know if this version of Spider-Man is
maybe not, but I know that even in his own regard, he was able to handle the Hulk with ease in some capacity. And it was at that point, I think maybe it revealed that he had been holding back every time he ever hit somebody. And he was only using a minuscule amount of his strength. And I think in this, especially with Osborn, and gosh, that was...
When he lays into him, dude, that's...
So, somehow, out of nowhere... Wow... What is the actor's name? It makes me so mad that I forgot his name out of nowhere.
Willem Dafoe?
Oh, Dafoe.
Yeah.
Dafoe doesn't go into like any movies for like the last 10 years and then puts on one of the best villain performances I have seen, period.
He's better in No Way Home than he is in the original, I would argue.
He did so incredibly well. it made you despise him, but you couldn't because you knew that was the real Green Goblin. That wasn't Osborn.
Yeah,
like you could. There's the massive difference between the two.
It's curious. I mean, it's a great message for the movies. Like as you know, it's a great anti-revenge message, but like it's actually a little unsatisfying when Goblin isn't killed in this movie.
Exactly. You leave with almost a bad taste in your mouth because that human part of you wants him to get revenge.
Yeah.
But you know that it's not the right thing to do. And you have the other two Spider-Mans who give that, they sacrificed for what they did. They sacrificed, and they were the only ones who knew his pain truly because they were him.
Yeah.
And each of them had lost somebody to a villain and had gone, like you look at what Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, and he almost killed Flash, like right there on the spot whenever his uncle died. And then you look at whenever Tobey Maguire's Venom scene. Like Venom movie wasn't that great, but the rage that he showed when he was just beating Venom up and beating, and even Green Goblin, like he shows really good rage, right? We had never seen that out of Tom Holland. Tom Holland's never gotten mad. He's gotten sad
because he's so baby faced. Exactly. You almost don't always buy it.
But there's a scene
in this movie you do. But
there's a scene where he's looking at Green Goblin and he says, "I just wanted to kill you myself."
Yeah,
and his eyes are just dark, and he's scary. He's genuinely terrifying.
And that music is almost very, it's Emperor Palpatine-ish. It's got the like opera singers in the background, and he's just laying into him, and oh my god, it's so good.
I would almost akin it to, in some way, the way Anakin looks after he goes dark, right? When you first see his eyes, because some people have mixed feelings about the prequels. Of course they do. Not everyone loves them.
I'm a prequels fan.
It's okay,
I'm
right?
just gonna say it.
So but damn it, did it. Christian Bale. Whenever you look at his eyes when he's looking down, and it's just
Did you just say Christian Bale's in Star Wars?
Did I say Christian Bale?
Hayden Christensen is who you're thinking of.
Christian Bale, excuse me. Hayden Christensen. Whenever he's sitting there and his eyes are down and it's just black.
Yeah.
Right? And of course the editing to make his eyes yellow and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the way he sells it, he's devoid of any form of sympathy or joy or anything. And the way that Tom Holland portrayed that, zero empathy, zero sympathy. He genuinely wanted to kill him. Yeah. In an acting form, that was genuine rage. Yeah. Like, I'm surprised that he didn't actually hurt him.
And you talk about eyes, and something else that stuck out to me, which again goes back to the earlier point that Tobey actually can act if you put him in the right movie with the right director. Yeah. But when he stops the glider, and he doesn't say anything to him, but I know. Everything in his eyes, you feel it both within the universe as these are two Peter Parkers who, from one older one to another, he's going, I understand what you're feeling right now, but you're better than this. Don't do it. And then at the same time, there's the legacy idea, the out-of-universe idea of Tobey Maguire, the first live-action Peter Parker in a movie, looking at the new generation, going like, it's a passing the torch moment. Yeah. It is. And there's just, and really every scene with Tobey and Andrew is like that, where there's like an in-universe layer to it and an out-of-universe layer to it. And God, I mean, every creative choice they made with Andrew and Tobey, I think was so well done.
I think
talk about Tobey though. Last thing before we wrap this up, there is a happier version of the ending of this movie, that the multiverse didn't collapse. Peter's identity was not erased. They just defeated all the villains. They got them cured. And they all get together. And they're just kind of like, now what? Yeah. And Tobey says, pizza time. Oh my God. And it cuts to them. Like and it cuts them eating like shawarma all together at the restaurant.
The homage to that would have been incredible.
Yeah. I feel like they could have done a few more memes in this movie. I was impressed that they did any at all. Yeah. But I don't know.
I think that they probably thought of doing that, but then they were like, that's not going to have the same emotional impact, and it's not going to do what we need to do. Which
they didn't want it to be too ridiculous, and again, they also had a specific ending in mind for political reasons between the studios. But anyway, I just need to throw that out there. Fan fiction-wise, that's my that's my ending.
What if that was in the bloopers?
God, I hope it, dude. I hope there's like Bully Maguire jokes in the bloopers. Like, I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye and all those great lines he does. Anyway, we have geeked out about Spider-Man No Way Home for far too long, in as much as everybody's going to see this movie anyway and probably already has.
Yeah.
But this has been our brief spoiler discussion of it. We liked it. If you haven't seen it, don't be living under a rock. Go check it out.
Yeah. All right.
And then we will see you next time on FNS. I have been Father.
And I have been Son.
Fare thee well.